Hi, I'm John from Shopkeep Arty, and today we're zooming live to join professional artist Peter Cronin, live from Wales. A watercolourist for almost 20 years, Peter's a member of the Royal Society of Marine Artists, the Royal Watercolour Society of Wales, and the Pure Watercolour Society. He's also author of the popular book Pure Watercolour Painting, and in a month or so is about to publish another great book all about what I personally think are the building blocks to create an amazing final painting, the initial sketch. We've also got a £50 giveaway today, which I'll explain later how you can win. Now, if you're a regular to our shows, you'll know that although you can just watch them, they're actually designed for painting along with. If you want to give it a go, the recommended materials and reference pictures can all be found on our website, shopkeeparty.com. If you're not sure whether you want to get your paints out, I do highly recommend giving it a go at least once. I think you'll really enjoy it. And when you're ready, our online platform can then help you showcase your art to others and even help you make money selling prints of your art without you needing to even lift a finger. Anyhow, without further ado, let's zoom to Peter now. These live events can be watched on YouTube, but for the best interactive experience, you can join the free Zoom lessons via our website. With leading artists from around the world, they're designed to give you a boost of creative inspiration. If you want to find out more about Peter's background or see our past webinar recordings, short or long, simply visit our website. I think I can see Peter down there. He's leaning out of his window. There he is. There he is. Hello, Peter.
Hi John, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Fine.
Good. And now this is our first show together, and I understand you first worked as a structural engineer prior to becoming an artist. Was that because you found that you loved painting the structures more than doing all the calculations on the structural loads?
I don't know. I've always been interested in doing sort of craft-based, hand-based things, you know. And in
Yeah.
South Wales, that there was a lot of heavy industry at the time, and it was the way to go. And of course, involved in it was engineering drawing, which I particularly liked as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a strange change from structural engineer to artist, but it's been about 18 or 20 years ago now, and yeah, it's gone well, and I've enjoyed it. And I think the engineering side has helped in some way, you know, particularly with the sketching and drawing.
Yeah. Well, we've hosted a lot of artists actually that have got an architectural background, you know, like Michael
Yes.
Yashevich in Poland and various other artists. So yeah, it's fascinating. So it's interesting. Now, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can achieve today. But before we do, a quick 30-second word on how these live tutorials work. So first we'll walk through the preparation, and this might include the sketching. It will definitely include the sketching today because that's more about what it's all about, and we may even have some time to apply the first layers of paint. Then, while that dries, we'll take the opportunity of seeing some examples of Peter's previous works of art for inspiration, as well as discuss his upcoming 2 to 3 hour workshop webinar, which is happening in a few weeks' time in early October. And then finally, we'll spend more time completing the tutorial, after which you at home can then share what you've created on our Facebook page for artist feedback and comments. And from these shared paintings, we're actually going to be picking one winner who'll receive a £50 book voucher courtesy of Search Press Publishing. So without further ado, let's get back to Peter and we'll make a start. So Peter, today it's all about sketching and the importance of sketching in sync a little bit with this book that's coming out in a month or so's time. And we've got a reference photo that most people will have hopefully had a look at or downloaded from our website, and it's a photo of a little building with, I can see the hills in the background. Talk about what how you approach this from the start.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you've got to identify what you like. And when I started ages ago, I would just try and draw the photograph, you know. But now I've become pretty adept at honing in on what I like, in this case, the little cottage, and simplifying areas around. And it's something you develop as you get more experienced. I generally start with a few light lines, putting the chimney in. I do them light because I don't often use a rubber, so you don't have to use a rubber if you use the right type of line, you know? So some of your viewers will probably hardly be able to see these. They're very sketchy, loose lines. And in almost every sketch that I do, there are wrong lines, you know? But the wrong lines get covered up, hopefully, by the right lines. So it's a learning experience, and the more you do, the less precise and panicky you get, you know? And it's an enjoyable experience. And the book tries to break down the sort of stages to how we should look at the subject and then how we should execute the subject. But one of my big things is the title. See, this roof is wrong, so I can just take it out wider. I can put the little chimney up there. And when you've got the right approach to your sketching, you'll be able to just relax and enjoy your sketching, you know. There is a lovely little water tank there by the side of the building, which I would like to move, actually. It's going to be a fag because it means I'm going to have to cut the trees around it because the trees are quite dark. So I only ever use a photograph as a reference. I don't slave to it. And that gives me a lot of liberty to hopefully say what I want to say with the sketch. You can see that these lines are going in quite loosely.
So almost before you put pencil to paper, you're almost thinking, right, first of all, how big am I going to make the focal point of my sketch? So you've made that building quite large in comparison with the photo, and then as you start to look at the detail, you're thinking, right, where do I want it where it actually is in real life, or actually do I want to move it somewhere? So you're almost creating a fictitious painting, but being inspired by the real photo. Is that how you
Yeah,
tend to do
you've
it
got it,
most of the
John.
time?
Yeah. I mean, good paintings and good sketches are made. People think you just stumble upon this beautiful, beautiful thing. Rarely it happens, you know? Rarely you stumble upon something and you think that can just be as it is. But usually, if you learn the tools of picture making, and again, that's a strong point in the book, you know, composition, how to put a picture together, then very often what you see in nature, you feel this urge just to modify a little bit. I mean, sometimes I'll take drastic action, like moving this tank. Other times, it's just little things. Like, for example, on a cloudy day, if you've observed enough and you're skillful enough, you can actually introduce sunlight as well. And this is the bit of the book that I actually like. It goes through the basic skills of sketching, and it can be learned more easily than painting, I think, because there is a definite method to drawing and sketching. And then it goes through the more subtle things, you know, as you gain experience, how you can actually change, you get more atmosphere and tease the bits out. You can guide the viewer where to look in your sketch by the way you handle your sketch. And I found that terrifically interesting, that you can actually pull the viewer's eye to the part of the sketch you want. So you're not just showing a person that this was a cottage in New Zealand. You can actually get them to look, if you like, at the chimney of that cottage, of the house in New Zealand. And it's terrific as you gain this knowledge that you realise that picture making is a real active process, you know? It's exciting. It's not just about trying to copy or even replicate exactly what's in front of you. It's about putting a bit of your own voice in. And that's the bit that I find interesting now. Really is. So
Now, obviously, you've got a lot of experience, as you say, 20 years or so. So you're probably doing it a bit more on the fly. But if somebody was starting off, could you see, let's say they were using this reference photo, might they do 3 or 4 different sketches, putting things in different places, and then taking a stand back and saying, actually, do I like the way I've created that composition, or do I prefer the? Can you see people doing different versions of the same photo?
yeah, but a lot of time, John, I think the trouble is people see something and they know they like it. So they try and sketch it. And in producing the sketch, they end up copying the photograph and not saying why they stopped to sketch that. And that's the real knack, is identifying what you like in something. So I would spend more time before you sketch actually looking and thinking. And one quick tip before we do the major demonstration, and I think it's a week's time, John, is it?
It's
Get a
about
title.
3 weeks, I think. Yeah.
3 weeks. Get a title, you know. Get a title for it because once you know the title, you can sketch towards the title, right? So on some things, my title may be sunlight on the roofs. So I won't worry too much about chimneys or anything or windows. I'll be getting that sunlight on the roofs. And it makes it easier to sketch, but it's quite hard to do because the novice keeps wanting to copy and replicate and they forget their initial inspiration, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
No,
the tricky
that's a
thing.
good tip. That's a good tip. And so for you, when you looked at this photo, what was the thing that stood out to you?
Well, we were driving around New Zealand in a camper van, and it's a lovely country, I'd recommend it. And there's all these little shack type buildings, which apparently are in the middle of nowhere, you know? And they've got this huge backdrop, as in this case, of trees and mountains behind them. But the colours on the buildings and the tin roofs, you know, sort of inspired me. And these little water towers, they're almost like motifs. So when you go to a country, I mean, when I went to Marrakesh, funnily enough, I found one of the main motifs there on buildings was actually satellite dishes. And I
Right.
ended up putting satellite dishes. If you go to Tuscany, it's those cypress trees and that, isn't it? You know?
Yeah,
So I ended
yeah,
up sort of doing that. So it's very, very strange what you sort of zone in on, you know, when you're sort of trying to sort of get the thing going. And when you go to an area, you find there's typical attributes for that area. And one of the attributes I found for New Zealand was actually these lovely little corrugated roofed little homesteads, you know.
yeah.
And I'm just going in now with a little bit more detail, you see, and I
Now,
can
Anne
place a little
says,
window.
seems that she really needs your book, Peter. I think Anne's maybe needs a little bit of help on the sketching. So don't worry. We're going to be talking about a little bit more about Peter's book a bit later. Patricia asked, what grade of pencil do you typically sketch with?
Well, I sketch nowadays with a particular make. Am I allowed to mention that, John? Um,
I think I know what it is because I think I might have one of those. Are they called Hawkwing or something or Blackwing?
Blackwing.
Blackwing.
Yeah, yeah, and they're very nice pencils. I mean, any pencil 2B, 3B will do, but these are nice because a lot of pencils have got bits of grit in them. But I settled on these, and I buy them by the box. They're not cheap, but they are a good quality tool, and I know what they're going to be every time. As when you swap around pencils,
Yeah.
one manufacturer's 3B might be another manufacturer's 2B or 4B. So they're not all the same.
True.
So I keep with these out of force of habit, and I know the sort of thing I'm going to get. And basically, it just involves then altering the pressure on the pencil to get the tone you want. I'm not one for having boxes of pencils because on site it's awkward. You know, they're dropping everywhere. So one pencil for the job, 2B, 3B. In some makes it may even be a 4B. You can vary the pressure. And that's the exciting thing about it, is it's quite tactile, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The pencil is a very tactile tool, isn't it? The harder you press it, the darker mark you make. See? I'm just going to put a semblance of some trees in. We haven't got a terrific amount of time here today, but I can show you the basic process. And it always involves big shapes and then working into ever smaller shapes. You see, I put some smaller shapes on a little house now. And I'm just going to flesh out some textures in the backdrop. I'm having a bad start here today, and I got noises and things popping off everywhere. I don't know if you
You're a
can hear
popular
that.
man. There's a lot of phone calls coming in.
It's like, hey, John, it's like being on site. If I was outside now, you'd have cars coming past, you'd have a horn bapping, you'd have a dog biting me. So it sort of replicates that, I hope. Um, yeah.
And so I can see you're obviously picking up with that pencil. You're picking up the values or the shading of the subject. Would you do that before? Because obviously this is we've called this a pencil and wash, so
Yeah.
that there is going to be an element of watercolor going in here. Would you sketch it so much on the final painting, or would you?
No.
No.
No. Final painting, I use a pencil to compose, just to lay out the main shapes so I know approximately where my washes are going. on an actual watercolor painting, I'm trying to put the least amount of pencil work. The joy of this is that with watercolor being transparent, all this tone is going to come back through.
Yes.
And in theory, it's a very quick way to sketch because it saves me then putting another darker wash on top. So
Yeah.
I've only got to put the one wash through and the tone is registered before. So it's useful in that respect, you know? And this is the reason for pencil and wash, is the pencil is playing the whole gambit of setting the tone and everything. The washes are giving me colour notes with the tone popping back through.
Yeah, and so this is then for you to refer to later on, or at the next stage, which is then creating it's basically to give you a quick reference to say, do I want to spend the time painting a painting of this subject in this
Yes, as
way?
you said earlier about making the little thumbnails and stuff, it's my thinking process as I'm
Yeah,
sketching it. And often between the finished sketch and the actual painting, there will be further changes. This is my first thought through it. And
yeah,
what I do with this, see this rigid fence now, I'm sort of altering that, aren't I? I'm altering the fence posts, making it a bit more interesting. There's a rather large green tank in front of the original building, which I'm going to take away. And I'm just going to place a little door or something in there, which I can colour, you see. I'll put another window in here. So I take quite a lot of liberties. I'll make these fence posts rather bigger. And notice the fence posts are quite varied, you know. So, yeah, it's a chance to get your thought processes. Get your thought processes in order and see what you like. See, now I've got the house there, reasonably as a focal point. I can darken the tops of some of these fence posts to sort of point at the house almost. And we're not too far away. An aspect I'm not happy with is this gap here. Do I need to invent another verge or something to fill that gap, you see? These are the sort of things we've got to think about. What I think I may do is put something like a very, very near, let me bring you in a little bit, you can see it in more detail now, is you can bring a very near bush or something here, see? And I can put a negative post in there. And that sort of almost acts like a stopper then down here. Let's put it in a bit stronger. See? I can put some more in here to show the corner of the house and to show these little legs here. And that's the sort of way I would develop something like this. You can see it is what we've got, but it's not. Yes, with more time, I would probably put in a larger backcloth of the hill there, but that could probably go in just with the wash. But it's essentially quite a quick process. And by the end of this, I'd like you to be picking up on the little white building and the lovely sort of cerulean blue tin roof, you know, because that'll be the sort of coloured area with it. And the greens I'll subdue a bit.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really interesting. And as I said right at the start, and as you've indicated yourself, these sort of things are the building blocks to a really successful painting, aren't they? I mean, they give you that foundation to work off.
They are. And if you've got good drawing skills, you know, they help terrifically. Because something like that, the little sketch, involves everything except colour at the moment, doesn't it? And I see so many artists who are mastering their watercolour washes. You know, they're pretty good with paint and mixing colours. But if you're wrapping those colours around a bad shape, it's a bad shape. In traditional painting, the shapes need to read. If it's a horse, it needs to look like a horse. And you can have all the, you know, you can do all the best fur you like. But if it doesn't look like a horse, you've had it. So it's essential, really. And the thing, you know, you have to stress the sort of necessity of it in traditional art, good, accurate drawing skills. But what I like to stress as well, John, is it's fantastic. It's just great fun. And it's
Yeah,
so portable. A sketchbook and a pencil, you know, in your handbag, in your man bag as I carry. And it's never a bored moment. It's
yeah,
so absorbing for every reason. And the tools are so simple. And once you've got over those first hurdles and you understand what you're trying to do, and this is what, you know, this is what the book does really, it tries to enable you to understand what you're trying to do. And then you can approach it with an awful lot of sort of zest, because so many novices will look at something and they say, gosh, I really like that, but I haven't got a clue how to start, what to do.
Yeah.
And the book will get you over that,
Over
because the
that
book
starting
breaks
point.
down into a process
Yeah.
of how you can sort
And
of.
I've had a couple of questions. So Ingrid on the Zoom and also Gail on YouTube. What kind of paper or what weight of paper do you typically use, both with your sketching and also with your painting?
Well, for sketching, anything. I swap around sketchbooks every now and again. I like the paper to be of a certain weight. It's not really flimsy. And I like the paper to have a slight tooth so that it'll actually take a pencil. Because paper that's too shiny, I mean, pastel artists will know this. You fill the grain up and it slips everywhere. But other than that, I'm not too fussy, really, to be honest with you. As long as it's not too flimsy, as long as it's got a little bit of a tooth. I mean, I've sketched on photocopying paper before. It doesn't take a wash very well, but it will do. The important thing is if you want to get something down. I knew an artist used to sketch on the back of his cigarette packets because he used to smoke as a surface to get the idea down. But there are obviously papers of different qualities and that, and I should just try and stick with the sketchbook you like. But it will probably involve paper of a certain weight with a slight tooth. Something too rough can be very hard to sort of sketch on, and the pencil will wear down very quickly on a surface that's very rough.
Now, if you were starting off and you didn't feel too confident with your sketching to start, what would you recommend? Would you recommend just going out and doing a bit of plein air and sketching things that you come across, or would you say maybe start with a photo to start with? Which one do you think would be a good place to start?
Two things. I love working outside, but then again, I'm confident. And also, I've learned that if you fail outside, and we do fail, then it's a much more pleasurable experience because you might have seen a particular bird you like, a buzzard or something, or you're out in the open air. The downside, of course, is there are other people there sometimes. So when I started, there wasn't things like iPads and that. But now, I mean, go out, take an interesting scene on your iPad, and then go back home and do it. The big advice I would say when you're starting is keep the number of shapes down. Novices show me things and they're like huge skylines. And I'm thinking, well, I wouldn't have attempted that for 2 or 3 years. I was lucky when I started. I had an infatuation with little Welsh farmhouses because the gable ends are altered so much. And I didn't know at the time, but I was doing the right thing. I was choosing a few shapes and trying to lay them down quite accurately.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the more complex the subject is, the harder it is to resolve into a good sketch. So keep the number of shapes down. Just sketch a little farmhouse. Just sketch one flower or whatever. And then broaden out as you get confidence. Because the same methods are used. This pencil will do certain things. And it can do a flower or a horse or a big cityscape. So practice on the smaller, more cameo type subjects.
And Jane's asked a question with regards to your sketching. Do you use different types of strokes of the pencil to create different textures? And you may have some of those examples of that and tips about that in your book. But do you try and vary your strokes with or do you typically, because that a lot of that's the straight shading there, but
Yeah.
sometimes artists go into the cross hatching or whatever. What are there any recommendations on that front?
I cross hatch more with a pen.
Okay.
With the pencil, I just, because I'm right-handed, my hand sits and I've got that stroke.
Yeah.
When I'm laying out, I tend to be long and loose. So I've got that sort of grip because I just want to get nice loose light lines in. I don't need a lot of pressure. So I vary my grip to what I'm doing. If I'm registering darks and windows, I may be in more of a right-in grip, to get some pressure on, to get some lovely darks. So yeah, the grip varies. I know a friend who sketches rather large with big thick pencils, and he holds the pencil like a charcoal stick almost.
Right.
So the grip is what suits you. I do alter the grip. Sometimes with the actual hatching, you can see with the actual corrugated roof, I've come down vertically, and with the water tank, I've come down vertically. The other thing I do often is if there's water, I will hatch horizontally. It just seems to read better for water. So I will alter the direction of my hatching if I want to show form. Look, if I wanted this bank to come across the road, you see, I could do that and then I could lift it up to a shadow the other side. And it does suggest direction, doesn't it, that way? So I will alter. And for trees, summer trees, I'll tend to scribble more. So I do alter my strokes and my direction. I alter my grip, but my default is hold the pencil fairly long and strike. And if I'm drawing like that. Then I'm moving my arm to strike. So I've got all that distance. On bigger surfaces, you may be using your whole arm to drawing on a large sheet of watercolor paper.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. That's really interesting. And Trina's said that she used to go to the coffee shop and sit there and sketch people as they were waiting to order or waiting to pick up. And she said that was a brilliant way to try and sketch people in motion. It really helped her learn to sketch figures quickly because they weren't hanging around for too much longer when they got their coffee. So I think those sort of things, forcing yourself in those situations to force you to sketch quickly and to make decisions quickly,
Yeah.
is a really good way to help improve your sketching.
The baggage check-in at airports used to be good when people are checking in their baggage because those
Oh,
queues
yes.
move quite slowly. But I had an incident in Italy where I was sitting down sketching these people, and two armed policemen came across and took a big stern look at me. He didn't act on anything, but he was quite intimidated. Didn't see these armed police coming across 'cause I was sketching. They looked in the sketchbook. They said something in Italian. I don't know whether they said good or bad, but yeah, they left me alone in the end. But I thought, oh, they were very suspicious. So
Yeah.
that they do move quite slowly, the old baggage queues. So you've got a chance.
Yeah, got a chance of catching them.
Yeah.
And Anne's asked, do you know or use a vanishing point, or do you just use your eye when you're doing from a perspective point of view?
Yeah, this is off discussed. I am a structural engineer. I've got draftsman skills, so I fully understand perspective and what it is. And yet, when I'm out on site, I simply hold my pencil out in front of me. I put it straight, and if there's a shape that's sloping, I lower my pencil down and I go, oh, it's sloping that way. And that's the way I do it. I just put my pencil up in front of me, hold it straight, lower it down onto the sloping shape, and tip it.
Right.
And that's the way I do it. I understand why perspective is there, but to check a line, understanding the maths helps your confidence. But yeah, I just hold my pencil out and place it on top of the line you're looking for. That's the easiest way to do it, and very quick too.
That's really good and really helpful, and we've covered quite a lot of stuff in that first part. And I know obviously the time moves so quickly in these short little classes that we do, but the main objective is to give you a real flavour of some of the things that we'll cover in the longer workshop. In this middle section now, it's one of my favourite bits. We get to have a look at some of Peter's previous works of art, but because this is actually quite a sketch orientated thing, what we thought might be quite useful is to see some of his previous sketches and how that translated into a final painting. So he's got a couple of examples now that hopefully we can show to you. So you've got, is it a sketchbook, or what have you got to show us, Peter?
Well, I've got a few. Unfortunately, a lot of the paintings I wanted to show you related to them. I'm saying unfortunately, they've sold, fortunately. So I've got cards of the paintings, but look, it shows the principle. If you take a look at this, for example, you'll see a typical pencil and wash that was carried out in a place called Glastonbury near here. And this is the resultant painting. And it's almost identical, isn't it? It's almost there. I mean, this is on watercolor paper. There's a
Yeah,
different finish to
incredible.
it.
Yeah.
But a really good sketch, and you're virtually almost there. The frightening thing, as you learn to sketch in an increasingly efficient manner, is that you end up frightened to paint them because there's a looseness and a joy to the sketch that sometimes you'll fail to get in the painting. Loads, some good, some bad. See some just pencil. There's an airport one. There's I'm looking if there's any pen in here because sometimes I do pen ones as well, but they're all pencil. And sometimes you go over the pages. As I said, some are successful, others are less so. The thing is to do it, to fill your sketchbooks.
Yeah.
And it's great. Here's one which is interesting because it led in the end to an award-winning painting in the Royal Society of Marine Artists. So that got me a little prize, and you think, well, it's very simple, and it was sort of pulled from imagination because this copse of trees is very near my home, and they're very interesting little set of trees. But this is an estuary that's down West Wales. And I put the two together. So I do this in the studio sometimes. I will concoct, I rarely do it, but I did it this time. And I did a resultant painting from it. And it got me, it got me a prize, that did.
Wow, that looks beautiful.
But the origins, look, the origins are with the sketch.
Yeah, yeah,
And we'll come into more later on as well of how this pencil sketch actually helps watercolor, because there's a relationship between the tonal aspect of a sketch and the way we paint watercolor, and it's very interesting. And it means that if you do a good sketch, you're 3/4 of the way there, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
because watercolor is painted light to dark, so this tells you where the darks are. So that's another little example of a sketch
Lovely.
before.
And where's that painting at the moment? Is that still hung up somewhere,
No,
or
gone, that one,
oh,
gone.
another
Sadly,
sale sold?
I mean,
Cha-ching.
as a professional artist, you've got to sell them, but you're sad to see some of them go. Uh, but that's the way it is. And anyway, it inspires you to paint more, doesn't it? Here's a little one again. This was sketched and it was changed. It was changed at the sketching time because in front of here was a big palisade fence and that. And it's Swansea Harbour, very hard now to access old industrial areas. So, sketching through a gap in a fence is quite hard. But that's the actual sketch. And I liked all the little dark verticals. See how I've I've placed accents in little areas where the darks are to
Yeah,
pull the eye upward.
it's almost like
And then
punctuation marks in the sky, isn't it? It's
you've got
really
it, yeah. And without that, the whole thing is horizontal. So I've got all these verticals spiking through it. And what we tried to do then was echo that into a painting, you know?
lovely.
See?
Yeah,
And it's slightly changed from the sketch, but not hugely.
yeah,
And
yeah,
people say, well, if you can paint like that, why bother to start with a sketch, and waste time on the sketch? But it's not wasted time. It's what gives you confidence to go into the watercolor, straight away and get at it. There's no hesitancy because by the time I finish that, I can't wait to paint it. My mind is either sorted or I'm very confused and I failed. But
yeah,
by the time you've done your sketch, whether it's a winner or not, and whether it's suitable for painting up or not.
yeah,
And when you get the method, which again the book is referring to, when you get a good method to approach things, a sketch like that looks fairly complicated doesn't take that long and isn't actually that difficult.
yeah, yeah. Oh, they look amazing. Thanks so much for sharing those with us. And and in the chat, let us know whether you think sketching out the subject dramatically improves the final painting, and whether you've used it yourself as well. Let us know. I hear your stories of successes and failures. And also, if you're watching on YouTube and you're loving the sketching, the theme of this show, we'd really appreciate you hitting the thumbs up. YouTube then recommends this show to more viewers, helping us with our mission to inspire more people to give art a try, young and old alike. Also, if you press the subscribe button, you'll get notified when we release our next art class later this week. Now, let's go back to Peter, and we're now going to discuss what we're going to be covering in 3 weeks' time. Now, this is going to be a little bit more different to our usual workshop webinars, as this time, viewers have the opportunity of receiving a signed copy of Peter's new book before it actually goes on sale. So you have the opportunity of doing a live art workshop with Peter, all about this sketching, with the book in front of you as well. So we think it will really maximise the amount of tips and techniques that you learn before anyone else in the world can get one. So it's going to be pretty good as well. So, so Peter, what subject are you planning on focusing on for the workshop?
We're going to go across to Tuscany and I've got a little reference for people here. I'm going to try and produce a lovely sort of pencil and wash of that scene. And it looks like a very complex scene, so we'll be discussing how we get that message I talked about earlier on, you know, what do we see in it, what do we want to say, and I'm going to try and produce a sketch of that that pulls a much stronger message out of the picture, but still retains the sort of sense of place that it has, you know?
Yeah.
And the techniques we use to produce something that looks as complicated as this, and you'll see when we actually get around to tackling it, it's not that complicated.
And I guess you'll be people have the option of whether they want the book or not in ordering the workshop, but it makes a lot of sense to do that. But if they've got the book in front of them, I would imagine that you'll be able to cover certain chapters in the course of this workshop that relate to this reference photo. So people will be able to refer to the book and obviously listen to you and sketch and paint along all at the same time. So it's going to be a really sort of multifaceted workshop, really, because they'll be able to refer to the book, and obviously you will as well, and ask you questions in a live environment. So it should be a really good learning experience. Now, if you are interested in joining Peter and myself for this event, it's taking place on the beginning of next month, Tuesday the 5th of October, and it's going to be at 3:30 in the afternoon UK time, which means that if you're over California way or whatever, it's just as the morning starts. Spaces are limited and we allocate them on a first come first served basis. You can either book by clicking the link just here, or I'll share my screen now, as I normally do on these events, and I'll show you how you can order from our website. And obviously it's a little bit different because we've got the book options as well now as well. So if you head over to Shopkeep Arty and you click on the live events section at the top, and if you scroll down all the upcoming live events, we've just activated, we normally unlock the next month, but we've activated Peter's because we're talking about that today. And on here you can scroll down and it talks about the book. We've also got another £50 voucher that we're giving away in that workshop as well, which will be fantastic. There's a previous painting that Peter did that you can just have a look at as a reference. Fairly limited recommended materials as well, and there's a video that Peter and myself did just introducing you to what we're going to be covering. Then if you want to purchase a ticket, you click that link, and on here it kind of explains the details, and you've got a number of options at the bottom. So you can either just book a ticket to the live webinar, or you can order the webinar and the book that will be posted out to you, but you have to pick which region you are in, UK, Europe, or rest of world, and because that depends on the postage costs and everything, and then just literally check out. Now what normally happens is we split the webinar entry ticket and the video, but for this exercise you will get the video included in the webinar ticket, so it's all included. And once you've joined the webinar, we'll then put the video up on our video library, and you'll then be able to press the watch button, and you can watch it on any device as many times as you want in the future, and always come back to it and refer to it. So you'll have the book hopefully, and be able to watch and recap with the video as well in the future, so do check that out. Right, okay, so let's now go back to Peter for the second part of this tutorial, where hopefully we may start adding a bit of colour into the scene. Peter, back to you.
Yeah, here we are. Then we have the little sketch. I would, I suppose, given a little more time, I've added little extra things. I've just noticed that there's some lovely little like telegraph poles here, which had another little vertical. But what I want to do now is show you how simple the actual wash is, and why it's such an effective tool, you know. I'm just going to accentuate some darks on the chimney there, and get some darks in the foreground, bring the eye forward, and let's have a little look at how we put the wash on. As it said, primarily I'll use this as a very quick method of sketching. So the sketch goes down, and because the sketch is registering a lot of the tone, in theory, I may well be able to get away with this by just putting one wash through the picture.
Wow.
I'll show you what I mean. And
Now,
that's the
just
essence.
while I'm just looking at all the comments that have been coming in. So Ingrid, when you were showing your other painting, said pretty with a big love heart. Jennifer said, I find boats difficult to sketch. Are boats covered in your book at all?
Yes, they are. Everything is covered in the book. I'll let you into a little key part of it. It's all about shapes, edges, and tones. And what the novice does, they see objects, and I don't. So whether it's a boat or a flower or a horse, to me, it's all the same. I try to see it as a pencil would see it, and we discuss that in the book. So there is specific chapters on things like boats. Indeed, there's chapters on sketch in sunlight, sketch in rain, such topics as that. So yeah, it's all in there. But by the
Brilliant.
time you get to those chapters, you'll have had a really good background in the basic elements of how to see things, you know? So they won't intimidate.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in and look at a bit of a sky. Sorry, John, I'm preempting. Are there any more questions and things? Or
There are a few, so but it's okay. You can start
oh, you can carry
wetting
on
the
if you like.
paper.
I can talk and paint.
Yeah, Eva says, I just enjoy the process of sketching. I find it very therapeutic, and Peter is an excellent teacher. Carol said, I'm not good at sketching, but this is encouraging me to practice, and I think definitely it's a good thing to keep doing. I think it will definitely improve your paintings. Gail on YouTube said, after a few years painting, I found that sketches have been invaluable to developing a painting. Jennifer, how do you transfer your sketch to a painting? Well, that's what we will be covering in the workshop. So I think I can't really say that much more. You kind of need to do the doing, don't you? But do
Yes.
you talk about that in your book, the transferring of the sketch to the final painting?
Yeah, as I said, it's all covered in there, and there are various ways to do that. People use different methods. I will, depending on the scale of the painting, etc. Depends on the method I use, you know.
Yeah.
But there are various methods to do that. Sometimes I just go ahead and go for it. Others, I'll be more clinical and I may even square it up, etc. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve, how complex it is. And I think what you're sketching, I think landscape lends itself to a freedom. As if I was doing something like portraits or a particular horse portrait or something, you know, I may be more prone then to actually squaring the thing up, you know, with a series of squares to getting it very accurate. So I think it depends on your subject matter, it depends on many things, it depends on your personality actually as well.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
I've come down and the paint is varying in thickness, but as you can see, I'm bringing this sort of bead thing down and I'm just varying the colours and I'm popping back in with the odd little bit of stiffer paint. See? But the pencil you can see is coming right back through. So that's what I've got there. Now comes the tricky bit because I want to maintain the sort of light on this tank and on the building. As you can see, I'm going to be using probably the same brush throughout, which is an old number 10. Again, I could change brushes, etc. But as I mentioned earlier, I see this as a sketching technique. And when I walk and sketch, I like to be very lightweight, you know. So I've got it down to these little basic materials. And I'm going to leave a little white line there. If I touch that wash, it'll fall. But by leaving a tiny little white line, I can start doing this, putting the roof in, and it won't fall. And you know, if I do touch it, it's not the end of the world, is it? Because sketches aren't paintings, they're sketches. And there is a lovely ease about doing a sketch, I find, that isn't in a painting. Because generally a sketch isn't supposed to be a finished piece of work. Even though, as I mentioned, sometimes I prefer them to the
Yeah.
resulting work. It's still nice to get that feeling into it, and it doesn't have the pressure of worry. I'm going to leave the front of that, I think, white paper because it'll help. I'm going to put some strong colour in the chimney. There is red chimneys there. I can use those. But see, it's this process of being able to actually paint the whole thing in one swoop. So if I'm walking, I can get a sketch done very quickly, and I can be up and away. As I often paint outdoors. Now, if I can get 3 paintings done in one day, I'm doing well. But these sketches, you know, you can get numerous ones done throughout a day. Because it's a very quick method. And it's a good method as well that I use for inclement weather. When you can't rely on the weather, there's nothing I like more than painting on site, setting the easel up, soaking up the day, producing a painting. But that isn't always possible. And what this gives you is a good, reliable way to get some quite strong notes down, you know, and to go away with a really nice strong note. This tank is the wrong colour, it's green. What can it be? What can it be? Should it echo the house? Should it echo the orange? I think we can use a nice bit of cat orange on that to really make it sort of sing a bit.
And obviously when you do a sketch, obviously something has inspired you by either that photo or that view that you're looking at. And so you do that sketch. What percentage of the sketches that you do end up making it as a painting when you get back?
That's a good question. Do you know, I hate to say this, but not many. Not many. I concluded out of a sketchbook, I may do, say sketchbook's got 30 pages. I may get 10 paintings. I've never had 20. So a huge percentage of the sketches don't get anywhere. And people will say, well, why do it? Because an athlete doesn't win a gold medal by turning up at the racetrack on the day, do they? It keeps you sharp. Practice. It keeps your eyes sharp. It keeps your observational skills sharp, you know? And that's why I sketch. And that's why a lot of the book won't ever make its way to a painting. But sometimes I get an old book, a couple of years old, and I get a painting out of it, you know? So on rainy studio days, I will go into my sketchbooks, and yeah, it can be surprising. Something that I bypassed a year or so ago, or 10 years ago, will actually be a painting today. So they're good value. They're an investment. And even if you don't get, 20 paintings out of a 20-page sketchbook, that's not wasted time, because you're honing your craft. You're honing your skills. You're honing your imagination. And as I mentioned initially, they're tremendous fun to do.
Now, you've talked about looking back over past books and maybe picking a painting out of those. But on the whole, do you find that when you're making a sketch like this, you're thinking to yourself, do you know what? This really would make a great painting. So I think when I get back home, I'm going to do that. Or is it something that you look at your sketchbook later on and make a decision latterly? How does it tend to work?
No, you're right. So I said earlier that most good paintings and sketches are produced. They're produced with skills you learn as an artist. If the world presented us with ready-made subjects, wouldn't it be great, But there is occasionally a subject and you think, this has got to work,
Yeah.
So yes, they are there. And when they're there, it's an absolute joy. And then you can't, you can't wait to get home and get it down. And often, John, if I find that sort of subject when I'm out, I'll get the easel up. I'll do it there and then if the weather's permitting.
Right, okay.
Because it's a certain one, because it's a cert, I'll set up and paint the thing there and then, A lot of times when I sketch, it's because I'm wondering, will it make a subject? I know there's potential to it, and the sketch allows me to explore that potential.
Yeah. Now, Anne's made a good question here. She said, on a cloudy day, do you still add the shadows as though it was sunny?
Yes. On a cloudy day, I will, if it's a sketch, right, I will do what I want. So on a cloudy day, I'll add shadows. What I won't do is if I'm painting, it's funny, isn't it? If I'm sketching, I'm allowed to change things and sort of cook the books a bit, as I call it, make my own recipe. But if I'm painting outdoors, I always try and paint the day. It seems to me pointless setting an easel up outdoors and trying to put sunlight into a rainy day. The reason I paint outdoors is to hone the subtleties of painting to try and get weather. But sketching's a different ballgame. I can see a subject and think, well, it's a very flat lit day, but by gosh, them shapes are terrific. And a bit of sunlight on those shapes, you know? And I've been sketching long enough that actually at the point of sketching, I can introduce sunlight. And once you know what makes sunlight with a pencil, and once you know what makes rain with a pencil, you can introduce it to your subject. It's great. It gives you freedom.
Yeah. Jennifer's asked, do you ever sketch in ink?
Yes, I do. I've probably got some ink things here somewhere. You can see that's very simple. And you can see the tones are sort of standing through it. And that was one wash through.
Yeah.
And I can sort of be ready to go now.
Now, obviously, we've elongated it a bit through this show, but you know, it actually probably only took you 10 minutes or so, really, if you were just focusing on that.
Yeah. Look, another New Zealand little house in a pen. I like a pen. It's very direct, very strong.
Yeah.
I don't always put washes over, but I do sometimes. You know, another little pencil and wash. There's a really frantic pen one. Whilst I was being jostled by people on the sidewalk there.
Yeah,
so I like pen and wash, and I tend to use pen quite often in hot climates because it's very, very good for various reasons for sunlight. And now I've said that, I'm scrambling through my little sketchbooks here, and I can't find a nice pen and wash to show you.
Now, how many sketchbooks do you reckon? Just a finger in the air number. How many sketchbooks do you think?
Gosh, John, that's not a fair question. I've got cupboards full. A couple of years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, I sold a lot of them off because I felt I had too many. And I
really?
literally regret it, you know? Literally regret it. I've probably at this moment in time got 40 or 50 sketchbooks in that cupboard.
Wow.
It's
like a diary, isn't it? It's like a personal diary of your travels. Yeah.
They're diaries of a life. Wherever I go, I take a sketchbook and I just sketch. And they're little diaries, some half complete, of a life, you know?
Yeah.
This was Amsterdam. So, there they are. That's a matchstick in ink.
Right.
That's something I use quite rarely, but it's fun to use. It's very loose, isn't it?
Caught the water really well on those posts.
Yeah, they liked on the water.
Yeah.
And had I had more time, I could have put a nice wash through that, you know?
Yeah.
So you've got to give it a go. You've got to give this a go.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic. Wow. Well, I think we're coming up to the time, so it's been a really fantastic show. We've covered so many different things, and hopefully you've really enjoyed it. I certainly have. Now, obviously, we've got the reference photo, and you've got the reference photo, and that's what we want you to use, and we want taking a lot of the things that we've covered in this show, take that to heart and do a little bit of pencil and wash. You could use ink as well if you wanted to, but a pencil and wash, and post up a picture of that on our Facebook page, and we'll have a look at that. You can share it on Instagram as well, and hashtag ShopkeepArty. We will then make a judgment on who wins the £50 book voucher from Search Press, so you can then spend that on arts and crafts books that Search Press publishes. The way that we're going to judge it is we're going to look at all the paintings submitted, whichever top 3 have been liked, so on the number of likes, so do share with your friends, family, whatever, but also have a look at what other people have done, and you know, do give other people a like if you really like what they've done. Share that around and make really nice positive comments, and whichever are the top 3, those are the top 3 that Peter will then judge from, and we'll pick one to be the winner. So if you've got any comments that you'd like me to read through to Peter, do write those on the Q&A or on live chat now on YouTube, and I'll put that over to Peter very shortly. Peter, it's been a really fascinating show, and it's highlighted to me, and I think sometimes you can lose sight of the importance of sketching and how it's indispensable really to framing that composition. I think people tend to typically just go straight in, don't they, to painting that piece, and maybe at the end of it they think there's something missing, and if they'd just taken that little bit of time at the start to sketch it out and form where they want to position things, it could have made it given it so much more pop to the final result.
You're absolutely right, John, and I think the reason people don't do it is because they haven't yet learned the language of how to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And it adds pleasure to the process. It adds to the final piece as well. It doesn't take something away from the final piece. People say, I want to be spontaneous, you know? But spontaneity without knowledge is a fatal thing, you know? It's much nicer to be spontaneous. Once you know the scales, you make better music. So,
Yes.
and that's what sketching is practicing those scales and ideas. It's an absolute asset for better pictures and paint making, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And someone's asked, when is the book available and can it be purchased in bookshops? So the answer is yes, it can be purchased obviously later. I think it's late October, I think, is when it's coming out. So it's in just over a month's time, month and a bit. But I think the price is going to be around about £13 plus any postage that they have. And you'll notice on our website for the workshop plus the book, I think we're charging £10 including the postage. In the UK obviously it gets a bit more expensive as we're shipping it to other parts of the world, but it's actually a really good price on top of the workshop price. Do check that out if you are interested, and it will be signed as well by Peter, and so you'll be able to have that, and it'll be a nice token as well. But personally, as a learning thing, and Shopkeep Arty are all about trying to maximize the learning content. This is the first time that we've done something where you'll have the book in front of you. Obviously, the earlier you order, the more. If you order the day before, you might not have the book in time. But if you order in advance and you've got that book in front of you, and then going through a workshop live with Peter and asking him any questions from either the book or during the workshop, I think you'll learn so much. I mean, it's like the old-fashioned way, isn't it, of being in a classroom and the teacher going through the textbook. So we think it will really, really maximize the learning content. So let me come back to you, Peter, and we've had so Karen said, fantastic, thank you, Peter, I've learned so much, can't wait for the workshop. Trina said, many thanks to John and Peter, I worked up a small sketch in my small sketchbook and added a light wash. Early morning sketching must agree with me, so that's good. Trina's in Sacramento. Ingrid, thank you so much, Peter, I love your work and looks so simple. The best paintings always do, Ingrid. Kim, very interesting. Thank you, Peter. Wendy, excellent class. Gary, really enjoyed his method, even starting with the chimney. Thanks. Bobby, ouch. I don't know why Bobby said ouch. Hopefully you didn't hurt yourself there, Bobby. Susan, great, very nice tutorial, thank you, learned a lot. Nicole, thank you so much, Peter, this has been amazing. I've learned so many things, I cannot wait for the book release. Honestly, so many aha moments today. Jennifer, many thanks for a great insight to sketching. You could listen to your lovely accent all day. Cecilia, hola from Tucson, Arizona. Finally, I'm convinced of the value of sketching. I'm very grateful, just what I needed. Patricia, thank you, Peter, for sharing your incredible sketching insights. Will definitely sign up for the longer workshop and get your book, and good job of running the session, John. Oh, thank you. Barb, thank you so much, Peter and John. Andrew, many thanks, loved it. Wendy, loved it, thank you. And Gail said, thank you, very valuable lesson on YouTube as well. So I think we've had a really great session today. I'm glad everybody's enjoyed it. I certainly have. Really looking forward to seeing the paintings that you submit on our Facebook page. Can't wait to see all the different varieties and approaches. It will be really fantastic. If you want to join Peter and I for the full workshop, remember to visit our live events section on our website. If you are one of our patrons or a paying guest, we're flying to India this Thursday to host Rajat S. Bandyopadhyay for a special 1-hour class, so I'm looking forward to seeing you then. If not, I hope you can join us next Tuesday for another free and exciting class with no guesses what we're going to be painting there, with Liz Chatterton. So until next time, it's goodbye from me, but obviously thank you so much for your time and generosity and all the insights that you gave us. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And obviously you get a big round of applause. And we'll finish on the sketch. Thanks again.